All right, wow. Well, congratulations on all of this, all of the acclaim, the awards, the audiences showing up and loving this film. And I love the fact that tonight, collectively, this is a great movie to experience in a room with everybody else. Because, actually, Ken, you made this, I think you wrote it during the pandemic and made it during the pandemic and have been showing it during the pandemic.
Yeah, so it's fantastic to see a room full of people again. You know, we had this amazing experience when we debuted the film Telluride, and we just were coming out of the pandemic, and then as we all know, we had this kind of little false dawn, and then it all got squeezed up a bit, and everything got a bit more nerve-wracking. So it's amazing to see everybody, all facing a great big screen, for any film. But it's a thrill that you've come to see ours. So thanks so much.
It's about, I was just telling you, just driving here, I heard you on MSNBC with Lawrence O'Donnell, and he was talking about something, and I realized listening to it that, this movie is all about love on different generations as well, and that family connection and that falling in love in those relationships. It's played against this, event, all what's going on in Northern Ireland, but at its heart, it's a love story.
Yes, it is.
Well, I think, there's not much in that, much that everybody here brings to it by way of, expressions of love, heart in the performances, and also I would say, great naturalism. There's one of the things that's been a thrill, and it is down to my distinguished colleagues here, is how much people have commented on sense of authenticity in the delivery. That there's no. I don't wish to speak immodestly, but it seems to me anyway that there are, in my viewing of this work, that there's no phony notes. And that's a wonderful tribute. If you've done something personal and you're trying to present versions of people that were inspired by your parents, your grandparents, it's an amazing thrill to see them presented with that sort of, without any kind of well-intentioned, and I speak only as someone who's done this plenty of times in the past, where you do too much acting with the best of intentions, thank God I wasn't in it, is all I can say. That ability to convey, essentially what you're saying, Pete, is at the centre of something that we were trying to find, and on our way to it, we were finding as much laughter, music, dancing, comedy as we possibly could. But I suppose in times like these, what you were definitely also trying to find and cling to was love. As difficult as sometimes it is inside long-term relationships. Anyway, I owe these wonderful people a debt of gratitude for the way they conveyed that.
That's for sure. And I would add love of movies too. If ever there's a movie that I've seen in recent times that you can just see the love for movies that you obviously had at a very young age, and you bring it right back to today. American Cinematheque just announced the whole month of February they're going to be doing a tribute to Kenneth Branagh, and not only this film, but all the movie inspirations that you have, and so you can go and see a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on the big screen, and 1 million years BC, all these things. It's exciting.
It's an absolute thrill, and that's a great tribute. But I go to the pictures all the time, I still do, and I see everything, and I just love it. I love the ritual of it, I love the popcorn, I love the ice cream. So for me, and it's never a bus holiday. I adore it, because I like finding out why certain people are laughing at certain things, and why. And it's great. Horror films are wonderful to watch in a big crowd as well. It's the love of cinema was so deeply embedded in me. One of the big thrills I have actually is that in our film, I think you guys can definitely say who have you worked with, and you can say, well, I was in a film with John Wayne and James Stewart, Grace Kelly, Gary Cooper, Dick Van Dyke. They've acted with all the greats. They didn't have to leave Belfast.
So fun. Well, I got to ask about, we have 3 cast members here, all nominated for SAG for the Outstanding Cast. We have a lot of SAG members here tonight. this together, how did you approach getting just the right actors?
Well, everybody here has a sort of, I would say, a great radar for the truth in their performances and in the work that I've seen them do, and they came to this with the sort of, which we all did, I suppose, with a kind of excitement and a relish about being able to, having the privilege of being able to work during this extraordinary time. And I think just there's a very sort of honest approach that I've seen in all of their work and in their this combination, which was really a lovely thing to witness of. Both obviously trying to ask a few questions of me about maybe the characters who inspired this, but also really the first time we met being very able to share stories of their own families and bring that and really own the characters. And I think one of the real thrills about the way the film has been received is that it has travelled way beyond Belfast in the sense that the specificity of its setting there seems to be the thing that releases this universal connection. And I think that comes from the human dimension that Katrina and Jamie and Kieran and the two Judes, young Jude and slightly less young Jude, bring to it. So I was very, very lucky. Although I have to say that one thing that was pretty thrilling is the only time that it's happened to me in my entire career as a would-be film director is that in the pandemic, is that when you were attempting to cast it, suddenly everybody was available. that was pretty exciting. You knew you were going to get to people pretty quickly.
So you got them for a price, is that what you saying?
We can't talk about that kind of stuff yet.
I'm so glad you were all available, and I think I'm the only one on this stage that's either not from Belfast or not right down the road from Belfast here. You all have that connection, which I think adds, Katrina, being close to, you're in a movie here set in a place you actually know well.
Yeah, well, I'm from down the road, which to me wasn't very far, but they'll all say I'm from way, way down the road. Yeah, I grew up right on the border. I spent a lot of time in Belfast. My sister went to university there. We would travel in and out of the north on a weekly basis. So, you grow up with sort of the troubles and as a backdrop to your life when you've grown up in Ireland, especially in the border. And it's different to obviously the experience in Belfast, but it's still, I think, forms you. And when I read this script first, I instantly sort of recognized Ma. I recognized my mother in her, but I recognized women that I knew from Ireland, from the area that I was in. And there was such a ferocity to her, but I loved the way that she was quick to laugh, but quick to anger. Those are things that I knew very well from home. But it's that just real vibrancy that sort of a lot of the women that I grew up with, that I knew. And it was just this beautiful, I think, human story that told the story of real ordinary families who didn't ask for this thing that was going on around them, which was kind of how I grew up. My parents were not people who wanted us to sort of be tribal in any way. They were ordinary family who kind of had to try and navigate us through having sectarianism around us. So, those are things that I really responded to in the script.
And you have such great chemistry with the whole family, but that guy right next to you there, Jamie, I mean, the two of you, and I don't know how much rehearsal time you got or how much bonding time you got to be a family, but man, you look like you've been a family, your whole life here. Jamie, talk about that and developing that chemistry here within this family.
It's weird, Pete, because I feel like we've spent all this extra time together now that if we filmed it again would be even better. The family unit is just growing, the bonus of having a film that is getting this much love and attention is we're getting to spend all this extra time together, and it's a beautiful thing, but so much of that felt very immediate when we all met each other. I'd met Katrina at TIFF about 3 years ago. We both had other work there, and it was a quick introduction. And I said I never want to work with her because she's too tall. And then here we are. You know, it helps. I met you socially before, remember, in Budapest a long time ago. But what helps is having a commonality with all being from the same very small place. It does just do a lot of the groundwork for you, I think, in terms of understanding each other, understanding the soul of the people from that place, literally understanding each other, like how you talk, getting the nuances of the humour and the darkness of the humour from that part of the world. All of that helps to galvanise the family, and speaking purely about Katrina, it was just easy. It was just so easy from the beginning. On our first day, we had to do a dance rehearsal together, and we were both not good dancers, and terrified, you know. And again, that was just this sort of wall, you know, shattering situation of like, well, like we're in this together, and then it was just easy from there on.
And I have to say, your father actually died before he could see the movie of COVID, very, very sadly, without seeing it. But he knew you were going to be in it, and this performance, it seems, is a big tribute to him as well.
You're going to try to make me cry. It's been a while since I've cried at a Q&A, but I've done it a few times on this journey. Yeah, listen, it breaks my heart that he's not able to see the you know, my dad, I'm from Belfast, dad's from Belfast, his dad, in fact, like, I'm only from a long line of men from this city, and yeah. Yeah, he wouldn't be proud, but I take comfort in the fact that he knew I was doing it, and I was working with these great players around me, and, you know, finally working with people that he knew. You know,
and Kieran, the great Kieran Hines here. You just so embody pop, and obviously getting to work with Judi Dench, who I think you've worked with her, what, 12 times, 50, so many times, but it's such a touching kind of relationship there between the two.
I guess it would be churlish of me to say that Ken inflicted Judi Dench on me. But when he did say that, when he asked me to be part of the project, and having only needed to read a few pages to know that it smacked of truth and authenticity and a real soul and an understanding of the culture that we come from. But when he threw Dame Judy into the mix, there was no way out, really. There was no backing out after that, because she's and then when actually the reality of getting to work with her was, for me, it's not the word scary, but it's like frightening. because she's so bloody good. She's so extraordinary, and can just turn on a dime or a cent from one thing to the other. And so to be able to play with her, to be able to actually become deeply entrenched in a relationship with her, that we would be, like in that relationship, would be 50 years together. And we had this agreement, and we didn't have to say who was doing what, but we kind of came to an agreement that one of us would go up a few years and the other would come down a few years, and would meet vaguely in the middle. And that, when I saw the film for the first time, that seemed to be what kind of encapsulated in their relationship, that they had been together a long time, they were very stoic together, but there was deep, deep love that in Judy's case it now turned into tolerance of me. But that can only come from a very loving place, I think.
Yeah, well, you know, she's amazing. I just got to interview her via Zoom from wherever she was in England, and she said, Ken, that she is not old enough to play your grandmother.
Well, what they said about Cleopatra, which she played brilliantly, age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety. And she does have, she's a timeless classic, Judi Dench. It's as simple as she's timeless and she's ageless. And in fact, the two youngest spirited people on the crew seem to be Jude Hill and Judi Dench. And she made a beeline for young Jude on the first day of rehearsal because it seemed like she knew already that relationship, that cross-generational relationship was going to be vitally important. And it was such fun to see. For instance, she was just, maybe as a result of all that theatre training, I think that actually Judy is very, very free in front of the camera. Every take is like a rehearsal. You can be different every time. And she loves being surprised. And so when we, I don't know if you remember this, but when we showed the visits to the cinema, part of the general policy was that we would never really rehearse with young Jude if we could help it, because we always wanted to capture whatever he was seeing for the first time, including his reaction to these films, which he'd never seen. And frankly, Judy hadn't either, had she? She never goes to the pictures. I mean, she says Bambi finished her off when she was 7. Once Bambi's mum died, she never returned to the cinema. It's true. So they were both, so the two of them were like naughty school kids, you know. So there's a shot in the movie with Jude throwing his head back, like she's tickled him. It's because Judi Dench says another rude thing in his ear, and having seen a bit of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang for the first time. So they were like the two naughty kids at the back of the class, and that's one of the reasons why Judi Dench is so ageless, because she has that childlike capacity to be present, just like young Jude Hill, in fact.
You know, she said to me, I said to her, how many takes did you do that last shot in the film with that beautiful close-up of her? And she said, I wanted to do it again and again and again and get better and better. And here is someone who's 87, has been in this business so many years, and says something like that, which I thought was so impressive. It shows how great she is.
Well, two examples of that. On that very same, I'll come back to one thing she did was a scene with Jamie and Kieran and young Jude. And although we were on a tight schedule, and although COVID and its protocols meant and Jude's young person's acting hours were limited, we were always rigorous. If we needed to, and if the film, as it often did, decided to shoot things all in one, which in this case are 4 people walking down a back entry, all got dialogue, we played in one, and we'd average 3, 4, 5 takes, maybe. And then this, do you remember how many takes we did that one?
Well, I thought it was 12, but then you came out and said it was 26.
26. And you know why it was 26? Because at about 18, Jamie was saying to Kieran, he said, I think we've got it. Jesus Christ, how many times? But then Jamie, being the gentleman he is, of course, realised they were talking without asking Judy, and he then said, what do you think, Judy? And Judy didn't really say anything, and Kieran said, she thinks we should do it again. And she did, and so it was Judy who went to take 26. But on that last shot, she stood, and we had lines written, but I asked her to improvise a bit. I threw some lines at her. She kept, where she's had massive close-up, she stood still. She was just completely unflappable. She just kept saying it again, and different versions. And as I was watching, it seemed as though the meaning of it was getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then she said, what you saw tonight in the film. And I said, cut. Okay, so I'm just going to go and check. Judy, hold, that seemed to me to be very good. I'm just going to go and check with the sound and the video on it, and just play me that. Tell me we haven't messed that up. Tell me. And then I hear it, and I go, oh no, what is that sound? What is that bloody sound on the soundtrack? And Denisha, the sound recorder, said, so that is your intake of breath when she did the last take. That was me going, because I'd just seen some great acting. Unfortunately, like an idiot, I'd left it on the soundtrack. Thank God for post-production.
That's great. I have to ask Jamie about, I mentioned this to you when I talked to you one time, but I said, every movie I'm seeing you in now, you're singing. and really good. I love the musical number here that you get to do. What was that like doing that?
Well, at one point there was more music in it, and everyone had a bit of a sort of song dance number, really. Except you didn't get it.
Well, there was a reason for that. Because I was crap.
But yeah, I guess in the context of the greater context of the whole shoot, it didn't seem like that big a deal, although of course it was. But because everyone else was, and I was involved in 2 other songs at one point, and then Ken made a decision that there wouldn't be all that music in it, but we kept Everlasting Love, so it ended up feeling quite exposed, because I'm the only one who ended up singing in it. But it was, my whole thing about that scene, and it's such a release, and it comes at such a great moment in the movie, and a sad moment, but we need a bit of joy at that time, I believe. And it's great as much as you're thinking about, like, did I turn my left foot or my right foot? Is it, and where did I lean to my left? Like, you're all over the shop of your mind. All I care about is the emotion of it, of like Ma and Pa and the situation they're in, at that critical point in their relationship where they are up against the rocks, quite honestly. And to be able, through the medium of song, to look into her eyes and say, listen, this is tough, and things are not great, but I've got your hand, you're going to be okay, I love you. That's what was important to get, and that's, to me, was the main focus of the day, and I was just getting so much back from this one that day, and it was a joyous experience, despite Kieran not being there.
Katrina, what about that? What he was just saying, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it was so great. Jamie and I, we worked with Aletta, our amazing choreographer, and there was this beautiful story that we told through that dance. It's sort of the way it worked out. It's sort of him declaring her love, and then they sort of circle each other, and then you see that response where she throws the arrow back at him, and it was this beautiful give and take. And Jamie, not only being so talented, just has buckets of charm and charisma when he's standing up there and singing. I think Ma couldn't help but, roll her eyes first, but then be completely sold by him. So, it's such a beautiful scene, and it says so much about this couple, and what lies underneath, which is their absolute love for each other. And I think that was so important to be able to celebrate, because that's what it is, really. It's this beautiful celebration of their love seen through the eyes of Buddy, which is, then you have Jude's face watching it, which is also, Jamie and I, after we'd done our little twirl, we were watching the monitor when you were filming Jude, and I mean, that face is just like looking up. We were just like proud parents standing there just being all verklempt, we were like, oh my God, he's so cute. It was a really special day.
I think of this movie and I think of the word home in so many ways. It's so important with it too. And Kieran, you're from Belfast, and what was it like being in those rooms and things? Because this whole street, you may not know this, was recreated actually in England, right? Yeah, this was not shot, the main part of it in Belfast, but it sure felt like it.
Yeah, it was, I guess also because of the conditions under COVID, that and Ken wanted to protect us all. He found a way of shooting it that wasn't going to put us into the wild west of Belfast in 2020 or whatever. So we were well protected, but Jim Clay was an extraordinarily experienced, brilliant production designer. When I went to see it, I was born in Belfast in the 50s, in the early 50s, and when I went onto the set the first time, it was strange because I'd already been transported by Ken's script and the scenario he'd written and the characters and the rhythms of how he spoke. Because I've been out of Belfast for nearly 50 years, but something I was transported back through reading, and then when I saw visually what Jim came up with, I was back in my own grandparents' home. And it's kind of a weird thing because Ken was writing something about his own family, and yet we come from different sides of the community divide, one Catholic, one Protestant. But the experience of being from Belfast, the soul of the people, the spirit of the people, the stoicism, the dry, droll sense of humor, despite the times that we're in it, between the visual of it and between the script that was written, it was kind of a weird experience, to be quite honest. It's like being, I don't know, telecharged into another time. And I was very, very, very happy to be there. And I'll stop now. Before I disappear somewhere else.
I love it. 50 years it took you to get to the point where you wanted to tell your story, essentially. Why now? Why was now the right time for you to bring this out?
At one stage, the film began with a quote by Ram Dass, very simple quote, which goes, "We are all really just walking each other home." And you got us all at it now, Pete. I suppose it's, on one level you could say for a lot of people at that time that what happened in Belfast broke a lot of people's hearts, and it broke a few in our family. I think this was a way of trying to put it back together again by acknowledging what amazing sacrifices my parents made. So many parents make every single day of the year in every part of the globe as they try and do their best for their families, and it's not easy, and they have to make tough decisions. And the things that we find along the way, the basic experiences of love, can allow us to somehow find our way back to our version of home. And sometimes when we're moved from where we actually live, that home lives inside of us. And we take that with us, as Kieran's character says so beautifully, as Pop. And I think I wanted to go back and shake hands with that kid. I wanted to say thank you.
And you did, and it's such a universal. You live in Belfast, you can live in Santa Monica, you can live anywhere, and it's a very universal story that happens to have come out at the right time where people are really looking for connection. And I think that's a big reason why this audience gave this film a standing ovation tonight, deservedly. So I thank you all for coming out here and sharing this with us. Thank you.